That hot stove is sizzling. Let's kick it off right here, folks. Sports Talk Nation, Michael Cohen here with you. And yes, the hot stove is on fire, especially with regards to the New York Mets. As we had a lot of Met news just in the last 24 hours. We kick it off, of course, with Billy Eppler becoming the next general manager of the New York Mets as their utterly bizarre, torturous sometimes prolonged search that went on for seemingly forever and ever and ever, finally comes to an end. There are a lot of thoughts that I have about this, and when I heard the news that Billy Eppler was going to be named the Mets general manager, I seriously did not know what to think anymore, because you know why? I have become numb to this entire process. Numb. Considering all the rejections the Mets have had. In fact, I have to pull up the list here, okay, of all the rejections the Mets have had for not just the general manager position, but also president of baseball operations. And this whole thing, as we all know, started with the Mets hunting for a president of baseball operations. Of course, they had to abandon that when the likes of Theo Epstein and Billy Beane and David Stearns, because of his contract with the Milwaukee Brewers, the Brewers denying permission for him to interview with the Mets. All those opportunities went by the wayside, and the Mets said, you know what, I guess we should just, Steve Cohen and Sandy Alderson, you know what, screw it. You know, we're not going to bother with the director of baseball operations this year again. We're going to kick the can down the road again for the second straight offseason. Let's just go for the general manager position. Okay, that's a good idea. And what happens is one rejection after another. Scott Harris, no thanks. Matt Arnold, Brewers say, I told you you can't talk to David Stearns. You're not going to talk to Matt Arnold either. Dodgers assistant Brandon Gomes, no thank you. Cardinals GM Mike Gersh, sorry, my phone isn't working. No, don't bother me right now. Blue Jays president Mark Shapiro, removed from the picture when the Mets had expressed interest. Let's see here. Who else? Twins assistant GM Daniel Adler said, sorry, I got to answer that. Sorry, can't answer your phone. Then let's see here. Who else? Dodgers assistant GM Jeff Kingston said, thanks. I'm good. Then Red Sox executive vice president Raquel Ferreira said, I kind of like it here in Boston. You got the nice leaves in the fall. We actually have baseball in October. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. No, thank you. And that was pretty much how this Met offseason went. One rejection after another, after another, after another. And it came down to basically Eppler and Adam Cromie. Cromie being a guy who was an attorney and hadn't been in baseball for almost 5 years. He was with the Nationals for a very long time as an assistant GM. That was really what it came down to. And the Mets decided to go with Eppler, who was, if you make the comparison as far as resumes are concerned, if you're comparing Eppler with Cromie, Eppler a little more impressive because, again, had a decades-long run with the Yankees as an assistant, was in the scouting department, director of scouting with the Yankees for a long time, was an assistant GM under Brian Cashman for about a year, or an off-season, whatever that may be, and then went to become the general manager of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. That's where the concerns come up now, because Eppler never had a winning season in 5 years as the GM of the Angels. And this is a team that had Mike Trout. This is a team that had Albert Pujols, and now at the end of his career. This is a team that added, and again, Eppler brought him in, Shohei Ohtani. They had all these big-time stars. They didn't win anything. The most wins the Angels had in a season with Eppler there as GM was 80 wins in a season. And yes, of all the bats they brought in, they brought in Justin Upton. He didn't work out. They brought in Anthony Rendon, formerly of the Nationals. That didn't particularly work out too great for them. They tried a lot of things. It just couldn't fit, and eventually Eppler was canned at the end of the 2020 season. Now, some people have said a lot of that has to do with meddling from the owner, Artie Moreno, who is a guy who likes to throw a lot of money around, will throw a lot of weight around. Maybe he's partly to blame for that. I think that's a fair point to make. Bottom line is, it didn't work out for Eppler in Anaheim. Now he has had a year to kind of sit back, look at what he did as an executive in Anaheim. Will that be a difference for him second time around? Will he be a different kind of general manager second time around? So I don't know what to make of it. It could end up being great. it could end up being a complete mess. We don't know. Now, there is a lot of rumors going around that perhaps this is going to be something a hire that is going to attract David Stearns, again, of the Brewers, to the Mets next year. And this is the part of this whole story that I just find so bizarre, because the Mets still have an affinity for Stearns. They would like him to be their president of baseball operations. He has a contract through this year. He has also an option for 2023. I'm not sure if it's whether he can execute that option or the Brewers can execute that option, but the fact is that's out there. If he were to become a free agent, let's say at the end of next season, the Mets want to bring him in to be their boss. And according to Joel Sherman of the New York Post, Eppler and Stearns are apparently, quote unquote, I don't know this to be a fact or anything, I'm just basing it off of the tweet I saw from Sherman, they're close friends. If that's the case, then maybe this is a way to bring Stearns into the fold. It's a very strong possibility. And you could have Stearns and Eppler work together. At the same time, let's just say, just for sake of argument, Eppler does great this year. Why wouldn't you, if you're the Mets, say, you know what? Let's make Eppler our president of baseball operations. If the Mets have a great year under him, he impresses, brings in some talent, and even if they are great friends, does he really want to work under Eppler? Does he want to work under Stearns? Does Stearns really want to have him work under him? I don't know. These are questions that will have to be remained unanswered. But the fact is, he's coming here. He's going to have a chance to pick the manager. There's a lot of talk that, at least more again, based off of rumors from all these MLB insiders, that one guy to watch is going to be Brad Ausmus, who is a former catcher with the Astros from long, long ago. Used to be a manager with the Detroit Tigers. Almost said Lions. I know. Okay, he didn't go 0-16. Trust me. Detroit Tigers and the Angels, and he wasn't a very good manager. He has a very mediocre record as a manager, like a 480 something winning percentage. This was a guy that was hired by Eppler in Anaheim, and of course, eventually ended up being fired as a manager. They're apparently close. Would that be the guy the Mets bring in to be the next manager of this team? That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Then there was this tweet from Jack Curry of the Yes Network, who says that Billy Eppler was a disciple of Stick Michael and Buck Showalter. Maybe Buck Showalter would be a candidate for the Mets job. I find that not likely. But if it were, that'd be great because, again, Showalter, a guy who has a lot of managerial experience and has been very, very successful for that matter. So I think from right now, we're in a situation where Eppler is going to be the guy. He's going to be the general manager of this team, whether you like it or not. And whether you have concerns about what happened with him in Anaheim, at this point, we have to see how he puts this team together. The Mets are a confounding team for that matter. The questions now moving forward are, who's going to be the manager of this team? Is it going to be a guy with experience? Is it going to be a young guy who is a fresh face? Is it going to be somebody that Eppler is very, very familiar with? We'll have to wait and see. The next question is, what moves are they going to make as far as players are concerned? Now, because now, we'll get into the Noah Syndergaard thing in just a second, but there's a lot of questions about this team moving forward. You have Javier Baez, who's a free agent, and there's a tweet by John Heyman saying that the Red Sox are interested in Baez. Do the Mets really want to roll out the red carpet for Baez, who, yes, had a nice finish to the season for a team that was out of it, but was really the chief orchestrator of the thumbs down thing, is a free swinger? Do the Mets really want to roll out $200 million plus for a guy to play second base who's really a shortstop? He has said in the past he would only move to second base if he could play with Lindor. We'll see. That's, again, $500 million in the middle of your infield between Lindor's $340 million contract and a potential Baez deal. Then you have, of course, Robinson Cano coming back off of suspension from steroids. He's got a monster contract for the next couple of years. What do the Mets do with him? Will there be a DH in the National League when the CBA is agreed upon? That's another big question. What do the Mets do about starting pitching, for that matter? What's the status with Jacob deGrom? Where is deGrom right now at this point? The Mets basically hid this elbow injury from public view. Didn't want to reveal anything about it. He ended up missing the second half of the season. What's going on with deGrom? Is he going to be healthy enough come spring training. And what kind of pitcher is he going to be? I mean, is he going to be throwing 100 miles an hour again next year? Will he have to pull it back a little bit, temper it a little as far as his velocity is concerned? What kind of pitcher is he going to be? And that leads into the stuff with Noah Syndergaard, who decides, even though the Mets offered him $18.4 million in a qualifying offer, would have been a one-year deal for a guy who had only pitched in 2 innings in the last two plus years. 2 innings after coming off of Tommy John surgery. Decides, that's a nice offer for the Mets, but you know what? I like the Angels' money a little bit better, and decides to take $21 million over a year. And this is from a guy who, towards the end of the season, said, I would hate to leave the Mets. I can't picture myself being in another uniform other than the Mets. He's tweeting all these things about, hanging out with the fans and, being part of the hashtag LGM Nation, for that matter. He instead decides, makes a business decision, decides to take $3 million more from the Angels to go pitch for them. And again, he's in a situation where he knows that he can make a big contract if he pitches well in 2022. He wants to get his money. There's a lot of uncertainty in baseball, of course, with the questions about the CBA, so I certainly understand him wanting to make his money, but it's not like the Mets didn't make an offer that was reasonable for a guy who hadn't pitched consistently in a couple of years. And the last time we saw him pitch a significant amount of innings, his ERA was about 4.5. He hasn't been the same guy we saw at the start of his career in a couple of years. So it's unfortunate that that's how this chapter with Noah Syndergaard now comes to an end, with him going to Anaheim. Now, hey, look, if he pitches well and the Mets want to sign him again to a long-term contract for 2023 and beyond, they could still do that. Anything is possible, but right now he is on his way to Anaheim. Marcus Stroman is a free agent. Is he going to be back? Probably not. And I think that I heard somewhere on the radio today that he tweeted out, or he liked a tweet that was critical of Billy Eppler's resume. So there's a good chance that Stroman's probably on his way out the door, and that wouldn't surprise me either. So another Met player that may be on the way out, Michael Conforto. Of course, Mets offer him a qualifying offer. He wants the most money. So he more than likely is on his way out. I don't think a lot of Met fans are going to miss him, obviously, because he didn't produce at all, especially in the last year. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be about Steve Cohen, because a year ago, Cohen made all these promises, talked about, World Series within 3 to 5 years, talked a big game. Here's your guy who has deep pockets. What is the Mets' plan? What is their identity? What do they want to be? Do they want to compete right away this year? Do they want to rebuild? What is the plan going forward right now with Billy Eppler, with Sandy Alderson, and moving forward, of course, with whoever they find to be the next manager of this team? That is the big question right now moving forward for the New York Mets. I think we're looking at a situation where the Mets are kind of in no man's land. They're in a situation where they want to contend and they want to be competitive. At the same time, maybe it's time for them to try to reshuffle the deck a little bit and turn a page on a number of players and turn a page to the future, for that matter, because it's a team that still doesn't have a great minor league system at the same time. So this is fascinating times for the New York Mets. Like I said, they are really in no man's land right now. I don't know really where they are. Are they a contender? Do they want to be a contender? Do they want to break this down? We're still trying to figure it out. And now here we are, just a couple weeks away from the winter's meetings, a couple weeks away from free agency really getting going, all the uncertainty as far as baseball's future, and the Mets finally get a general manager in place. This is wild, wild times. So again, folks, leave your thoughts below. What do you think about the hiring of Billy Eppler as general manager? What do you think about Noah Syndergaard leaving this team, leaving the Mets?
Noah Syndergaard wants to go to Hollywood to become the next movie star, making a sword and sorcery movie.
That's very possible. I don't know. Maybe he wants to be a stand-in for another Thor movie or another Marvel movie. Who the hell knows? But that being said, leave your thoughts below. What do you think about it? I think from my understanding, it seems like the Met fan base is kind of divided on a lot of this stuff. Leave your thoughts below. Like and subscribe. Oh boy, there's so much stuff going on with baseball. We'll talk to you next time. Oh, by the way, Luis Rojas is now the former Met manager, is now the third base coach for the Yankees. There's that, too. We'll talk to you next time.